Turns out you're related to Angelina Jolie. You're also cousins with Madonna.
That's true.
So, and I'm related to Madonna and Halle Berry.
Related, in fact, to Abraham Lincoln. Your family is that true?
Nancy Hanks was Abraham Lincoln's mother, so yeah.
Fascinating facts about Queen Camilla that you never knew. I promise you. She's distantly related to Madonna. Yes, you heard that right. Madonna. And Celine Dion. I am not joking. And, are you ready for this? King Charles. No, I am not joking. They are both descended from Henry Cavendish, the second Duke of Newcastle, making them 9th cousins once removed.
Then if we go to Edward III of England, in fact, the presidential candidates with the most royal genes has won every single American election. Now it seems as if Trump and Hillary had exactly the same lineage, so it didn't really matter which one of the two won. This information comes from Burke's Peerage, which is the Bible of aristocratic genealogy based in London.
Barack Obama and Sarah Palin are cousins, back to one Mr. Smith of the 1600s.
Like related, for real?
Yes.
What's the connect?
We're second or third cousins. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
You are related to Fred Rogers.
Impossible. No, you're pulling our leg.
All right.
Let's look at that.
How far away is it?
Wait, look at it.
I know, yeah, I'm never.
He tried to say that you two are somehow, some way related.
Yeah, she said she actually researched it and found it to be true.
And that's all.
Some kind of Presley with a Winfrey hooked up somewhere along the line in the South. You know how it goes.
Cousin Oprah.
That's right.
And that President Obama is related to all but one U.S. president.
What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage.
Well, Dan, the youngster spent the summer tracing the family tree of our presidents. Her conclusion that all the presidents, with the exception of one, share the same grandfather.
That President Obama and all the presidents before him, with the exception of one, are related and descendants of a former king of England.
No, they are all cousins and they're grandsons of John Lachlan.
Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
12-year-old Bridge Ann D'Avignon discovered that all the U.S. presidents, except Martin Van Buren, are related to the former King of England, John Lachlan Plantagenet, signer of the Magna Carta in 1215.
Check out this family tree, done with research by Ancestry.com.
What would you say if I told you he's related to all of those people?
That you're wrong.
Oh, no, I'm not. Let me take you through this, branch by branch.
The 101st Airborne Division, air assault.
Vice President Dick Cheney, the man who's only a heartbeat away from the presidency, is actually a blood relation. He's President Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Cheney's cousin Barack Obama is also Bush's 11th cousin and the 9th cousin of Brad Pitt. But we're only just getting started. President Lincoln was President Bush's 7th cousin 5 times removed, and Bush shared more than just a ballot with John Kerry. That's right, they're 9th cousins twice removed.
Really? What do you think of that?
Yeah, they have the same chin.
There's also royalty in the Bush bloodline. Princess Diana was Bush's 11th cousin.
Modern Rome and Israel just did a second preemptive strike on Medo-Persia / Iran. You know King Darius, the Persian King Empire. However, that video on the attack on Iran I will drop in a few days. They say in life, the best place to hide things or the truth from people is put it right in front of their eyes and they can't even see it. The Bible says they have eyes and they cannot see, ears and they cannot hear, and mouth. What do they speak?
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television.
I have known many years ago that it's just a handful of families who control and run the entire world. This has been happening for over 2,000 years ago, when the Roman Empire fell around 476 AD. When an empire falls or a nation is under attack, always keep in mind, the elites or the bloodlines are the first to fly away or disappear, and they restart somewhere else. But those things are not written in the history books. This video will outline some of the bloodlines from the ancient world who are among us, dictating our political and economic affairs. But most of us don't have a clue they are there. This video will pull back the curtain a little bit so you can get clarity and confirmation and enlightenment of how your world really operates, because they say the more things seems to change, the more they stay the same. But before I get in the video, if this video inspires you, enlightens you, and educates you, please share the video with someone else. I am not asking you for money. I just want you to help somebody else get clarity so they can make informed decisions based on the evidence that is given to them. Let's ride into the bloodline family in modern Rome.
Presidents that have, well, reigned in the United States have all been related. As it turns out, both Trump and Hillary Clinton are related to John of Gaunt, a 14th century royal. As it turns out, both Trump and Hillary Clinton are related to John of Gaunt, a 14th century royal. Gaunt was the first Duke of Lancaster, who was the son of King Edward III, according to MyHeritage. Trump is related through his mother, Mary Ann McLeod, back to his 17th grandfather, John Beaufort, while Clinton is related through her father and the Rodham family back to the 17th great-grandmother, Joan Beaufort. The two candidates are 19th cousins, and so they both have the right bloodlines to continue this lineage.
You can feel it when you go to work, when you pay your taxes.
Many people, like John Kerry's parents, came from Czechoslovakia through Chicago. Chicago is Rockefeller headquarters, and that's why they come specially. They're picked in other countries, they're selected and funded and brought here, and they immediately have good jobs and positions, and usually part of the intelligence operation of the United States.
That the Bible doesn't speak about the presidents of the world, it speaks about the kings of the world. And it really, over the course of history, hasn't mattered which of the candidates has won, because the candidates have always both been in the same bloodline. Did you know all 44 US presidents have carried European royal bloodlines into office? 34 have been genetic descendants of just one person, Charlemagne, the brutal 8th century king of the Franks. That's a fascinating story, because Charlemagne is, of course, the one who was crowned emperor of the Roman Empire.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth?
You need to go and watch the Matrix movie again. That was Professor Walter Witt. We'll get back to him. How many of you knew that 34 of American presidents were related to Charlemagne, the medieval emperor of the Roman Empire? How many of you knew that Charlemagne united Western Europe and his bloodline has been in the presidents of the United States? People, drop your comments. I want to hear from you. How many of you knew that?
There was an entity called the Holy Roman Empire. It was neither Holy Roman nor an empire. The Holy Roman Empire was created by Charlemagne, the French king. He was ethnically German. He was the German king who ruled Gaul because he was the guy in charge of the Franks. And the Franks are the guys who ended up calling Gaul after themselves. And that's why it's called France. France is named after a Germanic tribe. And the original kings of France were Germans. And they conquered what is today Germany. Charlemagne did. He conquered what is today Germany and Austria. And he put it together into France. He owned a piece of northern Italy. And he made this little empire.
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage.
Did you get that? Well, one of the things you must understand about the ancient world and the Roman Empire, they were a society that indulged in sex. You know, the goddess of prostitution, Ishtar or Diana. This is where you get your Easter, you know, the orgies of Rome, you know, with the bunny and the eggs and Valentine's. So you must understand what the elites normally do. They interbreed and also they have bastard or bastard children. And this is where, in the modern sense, you get them in the bloodlines of some singers and musicians and some stars. The problem is that they know their lineage because they have the history intact. The sad thing is that most of the masses don't have a clue when they propagate to them. They say, oh, this person is so good and so and so and so, not knowing that they are just manufactured to deceive you. Let's continue.
The super wealthy didn't use business plans to create wealth. They actually used specific ancient rituals that have been passed down through the generations to create attractor fields that virtually brought in wealth, power, control, and money into their life. There's one ritual that the elites use, and that is orgasm. I was taught very specifically the power, the energetic power of orgasm. If we have a strong sexual desire and learn how to transmute that into our, that creative energy into other activities, those activities have a lot of juice behind them and therefore have the ability to come to fruition very strongly.
In the Bible, she's called Ashtoreth. In Mesopotamia, she's called Ishtar. When she went into the Greek land, she was called Aphrodite, and then Venus. She is all over. And she's mentioned specifically there. Now, in the Canaanite mythology, she's actually the wife of Baal. So Baal has a wife. Okay, and so when Baal comes, the next one to come, it says in the Bible, says Baal, then it says Ashtoreth. Then she's coming in. So what this means is once the door is open, she is the goddess of sexuality, of sexual immorality. She's the goddess, she's actually called a prostitute. She's the goddess who her temples were filled with sexuality. It was made it public. So if she returns, what would happen? If she comes out, it means that America is going to undergo a sexual revolution. That is the sign of the possession of Ishtar, or this goddess.
When the Roman Empire was defeated, it was not defeated by an army. It was defeated by what destroys most countries. The Roman Empire was destroyed by immorality.
Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. This is your last chance.
Let me say it again. The best place to hide the truth from the masses is to put it right in front of their eyes, and they can't see it. Just put a little entertainment around it, and they will just gobble it up, hook, line, and sinker.
Oh my God.
It really, over the course of history, hasn't mattered which of the candidates has won, because the candidates have always both been in the same bloodlines. Here are the American presidential bloodlines. Here's another page that explains this. Did you know all 44 US presidents have carried European royal bloodlines into office? 34 have been genetic descendants of just one person, Charlemagne, the brutal 8th century king of the Franks. Now, that's a fascinating story, because Charlemagne is, of course, the one who was crowned emperor of the Roman Empire, the new Roman Empire, and the Pope was crowning him whilst his kingdom was falling apart. So he's a symbol of this unity of the world under one leadership, the papacy.
Did you know that Sir Christopher Lee, who played Saruman in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, is a direct descendant of Charlemagne, the first Holy Roman Emperor? Lee's family bears 80 to 90% of his coat of arms. In 2010, Lee released a symphonic metal album paying homage to First Holy Roman Emperor.
After this, there is no turning back.
History teaches that the Roman Empire was destroyed by the loins of their leaders. Your loins are right here. Their sexual life destroyed them.
Our system in America is directly under Rome. It's a Roman government. Who planted it there? Brilliant minds a long time ago. In the history books, you'll read things like Caesar. When he would officiate over his government, he would go up on the hill, and it was called Capitol Hill. And he would officiate over his Senate up on the hill. Sounds like Washington, D.C.
But is that hidden, or is that right out there for everybody to see?
Yeah, of course it is, but nobody ever thought about it.
I don't see anything sinister about that, do you?
No, it's just a government, but it's based on Rome. And now you begin to understand the importance of the Vatican in relation to America, and America being the new Rome. When Caesar was ruling during the Roman Empire, when he went into Britannia, or what we call the UK today, his base of operation was called York, England. That was the basis for Rome. And today, in our country, which is Rome, we have the basis for power, New York, like York, England. So our New York is the Empire State. Empire? What empire?
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe.
Are you kind of getting the similarities? Are the scales being slowly moved from your eyes to realize that this is the second beast that rose up out of the sea? The new Roman Empire? Oh, wait. Are you starting to wake up? Don't forget to hit the like button so others can see. And don't forget to subscribe. Let's go a little further into modern Rome.
Then if we go to Edward III of England, in fact, the presidential candidates with the most royal genes has won every single American election. Now, it seems as if Trump and Hillary had exactly the same lineage, so it didn't really matter which one of the two won. This information comes from Burke's Peerage, which is the Bible of aristocratic genealogy based in London.
They died from the inside. They decayed from immorality. 14 Caesars, 12 were homosexuals.
So, we've been told that we need to exercise our democratic and constitutional right in our democracy. We've been told that we can vote for Republicans or Democrats, conservatives or liberals, JLP, or PMP. But when you really understand the bloodlines and the family relation, you realize that you're getting two heads of the same coin. As the saying goes, it doesn't matter if it's right-wing, Republican, conservative, JLP, or the left-wing, Democrats, liberals, or the PMP. Both wings are controlled by the same bird.
Every presidential election in America since and including George Washington in 1789 to Bill Clinton has been won by the candidate with the most British and French royal genes. Of the 42 presidents to Clinton, 33 have been related to two people, Alfred the Great, King of England, and Charlemagne, the most famous monarch of France. So it goes on. 19 of them are related to England's Edward III and has 2,000 blood connections to Prince Charles.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So if the royal bloodlines of England and France, Charlemagne, dominates the American political and economic space, and most of the founding fathers of the new republic, Rome, America, were Freemasons, then how could the Bible that many of you criticizing, and this is my Bible, the African version, King James Bible, yes, I know, King James partook in homosexual activities. Yes, I know, King James deleted a lot of people, and he wasn't the best of kings. But one thing I know about the God I serve, he will use anyone. David, who went and slept with Uriah's wife, Bathsheba, and got him deleted in the battle. That's where King Solomon came out of and built the temple. Saul, which has become Apostle Paul, who literally wrote the entire New Testament. He used to delete many Christians. God used it. So, if the same Bible I read said that, Revelation 13 was written by John because he said he got the inspiration from God himself when he was exiled on the island of Patmos. Listen to what he wrote when he got the vision. He said, I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to the death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered of the beast. That's the first beast. Let's go to the second beast. Revelation 13:11. John said, and I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. You ever hear about Baphomet? And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Now, you must realize that this second beast is more powerful than the first beast, which it is. 13 the last. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Those are what you call mishap. When we are critiquing the Bible, say, oh, it's wrong, it's a fairy tale. Remove the biases for a moment. We know there's 66 books there. It was 104 before the Reformation, when the Roman Catholic Church started to burn the Bible, when Martin Luther nailed his 95 theses on the Catholic door, and he said the church is lying to the people. Then the Reformation began. So therefore, who have ears, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the church of Laodicea, last day church. I am talking to you because you're not getting this information from your pastors. As the saying goes, whomever pays the piper, select the tunes. Let's continue into modern Rome.
Yes, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are indeed cousins. It seems like all of the royal family are somehow related, and Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are no exception. They are 15th cousins. Meghan Markle's dad, Thomas Markle, is an Emmy Award-winning cinematographer. He is related to the Queen Mother. That is Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, who was Queen Elizabeth II's mother. There was Ralph Bowes, who was a high sheriff in the county of Durham in the 1500s. So his estates passed down to a guy named George Bowes. George Bowes was a great-grandfather of Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon and also of Harry, one of Ralph Bowes' other kids. Bridget Bowes married a guy named John Hussey. John Hussey and Bridget have a grandson named Christopher Hussey, who was the founder of Nantucket, Massachusetts, and that is the relationship to Meghan Markle, making Meghan and Prince Harry 15th cousin through the Bowes line.
After about 200 years, a bloodline will just die out because they're infertile from so much inbreeding. And so they would just take a cadet family, one of the other branches, and they'd plug them in. And so it was the same bloodline, but if you look at the Habsburgs, they all have strawberry blonde hair. It's reddish blonde. And there's a Pope, Orsini, who had reddish blonde hair, and I think he was involved in the Habsburg line. Another one is Bill Clinton's mother, who was the illegitimate child of Winthrop Rockefeller, who was governor of Arkansas. That's why Clinton was president, and now Hillary Clinton. She's actually, her middle name was Rodham. I looked it up, and it was shortened from Brodowski, and she's from a Jewish family in Brodowski, Poland. They keep rebreeding the ancient stock, the chi in Italian, like Medici. Yeah, chi means the stock, the bloodline you're from, or the tribe. It means DNA is what it means, and it's always through the female. It's not through the male.
Same goes with the banking families in America. George Bush and Barbara Bush are from the same bloodline, the Pierce bloodline, which changed its name from Percy when it crossed the Atlantic. Percy is one of the aristocratic families of Britain to this day. They were involved in the gunpowder plot to blow up Parliament at the time of Guy Fawkes. Now that's even more fascinating, because that was a Jesuit plot to overthrow the Protestant government in the United States. So if all these bloodlines belong to these individuals that overthrew Protestantism, well, that would be an interesting plot for the puppet masters to work on behind the scenes.
You know, the media has a way of bamboozling us. They would say, oh, Prince Charles met this wonderful school teacher, Diana, and they fell in love. Yeah, really. Diana is from the House of Windsor. And you see with Harry now, they say, oh, he met Margaret, and as you just heard, their family. The elites normally marry into their bloodline. They don't marry out of the bloodline. But they use the media, which is a mouthpiece, to deceive and control us. The elites normally marry into the bloodline. Every now and then they mix it so they don't get children with Down syndrome.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth.
More so than any other civilization, it was the Roman Republic that America's founders looked up to when they were building this country. It was the Republican government, it was the checks and balances, it was the institutions, the laws, it was the authors of the orders, even the architecture of the governmental buildings. But the strongest connection must be the love of liberty and the aversion to monarchy. The Roman Republic defined itself through its founding event, Lucius Brutus, Brutus's ancestor, chasing Tarquin out, in the same way that America defines its identity by chasing out the British monarchy. Now, given the similarity of these two nations, what was extremely alarming reading this book was seeing just how much of the decay that Shakespeare depicts in Rome is mirrored in America today.
Because now I'm investigating who's at the very top, who really rules the world, and I discovered it's a very, very interesting history of ancient Iranian tribes, the original Zoroastrians, and the first world Persian Empire that has controlled the world for the last 5,000 years. The interests behind the Jesuits, the entities that created the Jesuits during the Renaissance in Italy, it was none other than Alessandro Farnese, a Persian from ancient Persia. His family came through Cappadocia in eastern Turkey, eventually to Italy, and they founded the first 10 Etruscan cities in Italy. And when those were razed, they destroyed them and they created the Roman Empire. The Romans, the Etruscans, the Holy Roman Empire, they're all Iranians, they're all Persians, it's all Persian blood.
They slept with boys, not women. They fell in love with their lust to the point where they became so immoral that they began to have men marrying men. It's as old as 2,000 years ago. They were destroyed by their lusts of the flesh.
The Rothschilds come from the Orsini family. Roth means red in German, and the Orsini means red, red bear, little red bears. That's what Orsini means. The Grey Pope is Pepe Orsini. He trumps the black, he trumps the white Pope.
The Grey Pope is even higher than the black and the white Pope.
The Orsini is the Maxima family. They are the maximum family. They are on top. And somehow they've trumped the Colonna and the Farnese, which I know without any doubt through all my studies that they are the three most powerful Illuminati families.
What about Rothschild and Rockefeller?
Well, they are Orsini. They just changed their name. Rockefeller were Rothschilds. Rothschilds were Orsini. Orsini were a family which have their bloodlines in Babylon and Egypt. They tell you that. You read their biographies, they'll tell you that. We go back to Nimrod. They tell you that. The Rothschilds say that. We go back to Nimrod. How? Through the Orsinis. So Rockefeller, Rothschild, Orsini, and then you go back.
When people talk about powerful families, you'll hear names like Rockefeller or Rothschild, but one name a lot of people don't speak of is the Orsini. Now, the family emerges in Rome around the 11th century, right as the Catholic Church is becoming the most powerful institution in Europe. And by the 1200s, the Orsini weren't just nobles, they were church royalty, or what history today calls black nobility. Take Giovanni Gaetano Orsini, who became Pope Nicholas III in 1277. His papacy is openly documented as one of the most nepotistic in Vatican history. He appointed relatives to key positions, consolidated land, and actually strengthened his family's control over Rome and the Papal States. Across centuries, the Orsini have produced 5 popes and at least 34 cardinals, which matters because cardinals are the ones who elect the popes. So that means they weren't just in power, they actually helped decide who got power. The Orsini controlled fortresses and territory all across Rome, Lazio, Umbria, and southern Italy even, and would intermarry with other elite houses like the Medici and European royalty. Power married power for centuries. In modern times, the Orsini are often named among what people call the 13 bloodlines, 13 different lineages that have held power for thousands and thousands of years. Empires fell, revolutions happened, governments reset. They didn't. The Orsini and Colonna were leaders of opposing political parties. The Orsini supported the Pope's authority, and the Colonna favored the Holy Roman Emperor. The feud between the Orsini and Colonna families is one of the most violent in European history. The Orsini actually had literature written about them back in the 1200s, where they were accused of devil worship. Tensions rose between the Orsini and Colonna in 1303 when a Colonna slapped a pope who was affiliated with the Orsini. The feud ended after nearly 300 years with the Pax Romana in 1511. Then roughly 60 years later, Pope Sixtus V arranged for the heads of both families to marry two of his nieces. Power marries power. Next, let's talk about the feud between the Orsini and the Borgia. Yes, that Borgia, the likeness of Jesus Christ. He was actually an insane maniac. Caesar Borgia was the most ambitious of the illegitimate children of Cardinal Rodrigo Borgia, who also became Pope Alexander VI. And the Orsini, who were major landholders, opposed the expansion of Pope Alexander VI. In 1496, Caesar destroyed the Orsini-controlled Viano Castle. The famous example of Machiavellian tactics, Caesar would invite them to Sinigalla in 1502, and upon arrival, he would actually have them arrested, and later have them executed. Yes, Caesar Borgia was friends with the Machiavelli. Despite the setbacks, the Orsini would finally have Caesar arrested after the suspicious death of Pope Alexander VI. Before the Orsini rise in the papacy, Jews were mostly segregated, confined to neighborhoods along the Tiber River, restricted in their work, and limited in how they could have moved around the city and interact with the people. Under Orsini rule, that all changed. For the first time in centuries, Jews were allowed more freedom. Then after the Orsini papal influence waned, the restrictions returned. Pope Paul IV in 1555 built the Roman ghetto, literally walling the Jews inside, limiting freedom and confining them to a single district. Interesting, right? The Orsini lineage is still alive and well today. Dukes, dons, and princes, and even one some call the Grey Pope.
When a country begins to embrace immorality, their demise is on the way. When a country begins to sanction immoral acts that God condemned, don't worry about that country, they are dying. No matter how powerful your guns and military weapons are, if your morality becomes a cancer, your weapons become useless.
1919, a noted conservative economist, Joseph Schumpeter, whose work I've read extensively, incidentally. Schumpeter wrote this about ancient Rome. Excuse me. That policy which pretends to aspire to peace, but unerringly generates war. The policy of continual preparation for war. The policy of meddlesome interventionism. There was no corner of the known world where some interest was not alleged to be in danger or under actual attack. If the interests were not Roman, they were those of Rome's allies. And if Rome had no allies, then allies would be invented. When it was utterly impossible to contrive such an interest, why then it was the national honor that had been insulted. The fight was always invested with an aura of legality. Rome was always being attacked by evil-minded neighbors, always fighting for a breathing space. The whole world was pervaded by a host of enemies, and it was manifestly Rome's duty to guard against their indubitably aggressive designs. They were enemies who only waited to fall on the Roman people. Does that sound familiar to you at all? We hear today that we don't have one enemy, we have many now. The world communism has been defeated, but now we have many different enemies. They're all around, ready to pounce on us. And unless we keep those extortionary military budgets going, unless we keep being everywhere, all the place, our people will not be safe. They're out there ready to pounce upon us. Why aren't they ready to pounce upon Denmark, say? I mean, why doesn't Denmark have a world empire? What about little, weak, helpless, sweet Luxembourg? Wouldn't they want to pounce on Luxembourg? Why would they want to pounce on us?
I will leave you with this. Lucifer is the prince of the earth. and he has his sons and daughters in principalities and powers of the globe. In Ephesians it says, "You do not wrestle with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places." Put God first in everything that you do. I want to thank you again for watching. Please share the video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.